when her heart broke. Before everyone, only the ruthless Duke finally dared to move. Part 1. The ink under Millie's fingernails had cost her 3 invitations this season. Not that she'd wanted them. Lady Hartwell's musicale would have been torture, but her mother's sister kept a tally. A gentlewoman does not have trade-stained hands, Aunt Judith had said last week, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. Millie had stopped being a gentlewoman 2 years ago, right around the time Thomas Cavanaugh left her standing at the altar of St. Bride's with 200 guests and a wedding breakfast already laid out at Claridge's Hotel. Her father had paid £60 for that breakfast. The food had gone to the parish poor, and Millie had gone home to learn bookbinding because sitting still made her want to scream. What now? She pressed gold leaf onto a Morocco leather spine and tried not to think about the fact that she had £11, 4 shillings, and 6 pence to her name. The landlord wanted £40 by Lady Day, or he'd let the premises to Blackwell's printing concern. March 25th, 13 weeks away. The shop bell gave its familiar clatter. She knew his step now. Measured, unhurried, the kind of walk that came from never having to rush for anyone. Piers Grenville, 5th Duke of Ashcroft, had been calling at her shop every fortnight since last April, always between 2 and 3 o'clock when Bond Street was at its quietest, always alone, without even a footman. Highly irregular, the kind of irregular that would have destroyed her reputation if she'd had any reputation left to destroy. Your Grace. She set down her tools, or wiped her hands on her apron. Didn't curtsy. He'd asked her not to after his second visit, which had shocked her more than anything. Dukes didn't ask tradeswomen to dispense with courtesy. Miss Thorne. He was carrying something wrapped in his greatcoat. Water dripped onto her swept floor. I'm afraid I have a rather urgent matter. His voice never changed much. Flat, controlled, like he'd trained himself not to let anything show. The Ton called him the Flint Duke, not to his face, of course. No one was that stupid. But Millie had heard the whispers at the lending library. Cold as January. Turned down the Marquis of Fenimore's daughter without blinking. Refused every mama in Mayfair. 29 years old, with a dukedom and 60,000 a year. And he lived like a hermit in that massive pile in Grosvenor Square. And he set the bundle on her counter, unwrapped it carefully. Millie's breath stopped. Sweet merciful. She caught herself. Cursing in front of a duke, even mildly, probably wasn't done. This is a first folio. 1623. Her fingers hovered over the damaged binding, not quite touching. The pages were swollen with water, the leather warped. How did this happen? My brother kept it in his study at Northwick Abbey. Something shifted in his face when he said brother, like a door closing. I had it brought to London. This morning a housemaid knocked over a ewer. The book was beneath the table. His brother, the late Duke, drowned in 1813 while swimming off Brighton. Piers had inherited at 19. She'd been 17 then, still imagining she'd marry well and host dinner parties. Funny how the world could change so completely in just 10 years. The book was savable, but it would take weeks of careful work. She'd need to order new leather from Headley's in Bermondsey, special marbled end papers, gold leaf that cost 8 shillings an ounce. Her fingers itched to start, but her practical side, the one that kept her fed, knew she had to name a price first. The restoration will cost 15 guineas, she said. Waited for him to balk. He didn't even blink. 20 if you can have it done by 12th night. 3 weeks. It was tight, but possible if she worked nights. 20 guineas was £21. Combined with her savings, that was £32 total. Still, 8 short of what she needed, but closer. Much closer. I can do that, she said. Good. He pulled off his gloves. York tan leather. probably cost more than she made in a month, and laid them on the counter. Bo reached for the book. His hand brushed hers. They both froze. It lasted maybe 2 seconds. Then he pulled back like she'd burned him, and Millie pretended to examine the binding so he wouldn't see her face flush. Ridiculous. She was a woman of 26 who'd already been jilted publicly, and she was blushing over an accidental touch like some green girl at Almack's. "I apologize," he said, voice even more clipped than usual. "It's nothing, Your Grace." She forced herself to meet his eyes. They were gray, she'd noticed before, the color of storm clouds over the Thames. "I'll need to keep the book here while I work. I'll send word when it's ready." He nodded, picked up his gloves, put them down again. "Miss Thorne, I wonder—" He stopped, started over. "That is, I've been meaning to ask." The shop bell rang. Millie's stomach dropped. But Thomas Cavanaugh stood in her doorway, looking exactly as he had 2 years ago, except for new lines around his eyes. Still handsome in that careless way some men were. Still wearing clothes that cost more than he could afford. She could see it in the 2 shiny buttons. The cravat that was last year's fashion. "Millie," he said, like they were old friends. Like he hadn't left her standing in a wedding dress while 200 people whispered. "I'd heard you were keeping a shop. Didn't quite believe it." She couldn't speak. Her throat had closed completely. Piers Grenville went very, very still beside her. When he spoke, his voice could have frozen the Thames solid. "I don't believe we've been introduced." Thomas finally seemed to notice there was a duke in the room. His eyes widened. He swept a bow that was just slightly too deep, none too obsequious. "Your Grace, Thomas Cavanaugh, at your service. Miss Thorne and I are old friends." "Are you?" It wasn't a question. Piers hadn't moved, but somehow he seemed larger, colder. The temperature in the shop dropped 10 degrees. "How fortunate for you." The words were polite. The tone was a knife. Thomas's smile faltered. "Yes, well, Millie, I was hoping we might speak privately." "No." Millie found her voice. It came out steadier than she expected. "I'm with a client, Mr. Cavanaugh. You'll have to excuse me." "It's rather important." The lady said no. Piers didn't raise his voice. Didn't need to. There was something in the way he said it that made Thomas take a step backward. "I suggest you leave." For a moment, Thomas looked like he might argue. Then he glanced between them, Millie behind her counter, but Piers standing there like an avenging angel in expensive tailoring, and whatever he'd come to say died on his lips. "Of course. Forgive the intrusion." Another bow, this one hasty. The bell clattered as he fled. Silence filled the shop. Millie's hands were shaking. She pressed them flat on the counter, the same way she'd done 1,000 times before, willing them to stop, willing her breathing to even out, willing herself not to think about white roses and organ music, and the precise moment she'd realized he wasn't coming. "Miss Thorne." Piers's voice had gone soft. "Careful. Are you quite well?" "Perfectly well, Your Grace." She didn't look at him. Couldn't. "Was there anything else you needed?" That man was no one of consequence. She forced herself to meet his eyes. "I'll send word about the book." He studied her for a long moment, yet she had the oddest sensation that he could see straight through her, past the calm expression and the steady voice, down to the girl who'd counted to 100 while standing at an altar. Counted to 1,000. Counted until the vicar finally said, quietly, that perhaps they should clear the church. "Miss Thorne," Piers said slowly, "would you do me the very great honor of taking tea with me tomorrow? At Grillon's Hotel. 3 o'clock. Her heart stopped. Started again. Too fast. A duke didn't take tea with tradeswomen. Not publicly. Not at Grillon's, where every member of the ton might see. It would be in the scandal sheets by evening. People would talk. They'd assume things. Things that would ruin what little standing she had left. But Piers Grenville was looking at her with something in his eyes that wasn't pity. It was, well, recognition maybe, like seeing your own reflection in an unexpected mirror. "Why?" she whispered. His mouth almost smiled. Almost. "Because I should very much like to know you better, and because I suspect neither of us gives a damn what the ton thinks anymore." He was right about that. 3 o'clock, she heard herself say. This time he did smile. Small, barely there, but real. Then he was gone, the bell singing behind him. Millie stood alone in her shop, surrounded by the smell of leather and linseed oil, holding a ruined book worth more than everything she owned. Outside, December rain started to fall. She opened the folio carefully, looking for water damage. Found handwriting in the margins instead. Notes in a young man's script. Performed Act 3 for Father's birthday, 1812. P said I was terrible. He wasn't wrong. P. Piers. What more notes scattered through the pages. Complaints about society dinners. Sketches of people with exaggerated features. And then, near the end, told P about the debts today. £4,000 to Marchmont. P didn't say anything, just looked at me like I'd killed someone. Maybe I did. Millie turned the page with fingers that had gone numb. If I don't come back from Brighton, make sure P knows it wasn't his fault. The gambling, the debts, all of it. That was me. He'll blame himself anyway. He always does. The late Duke had drowned off Brighton in August 1813. She closed the book carefully, stood there in the growing darkness, listening to rain drum against the windows. Tomorrow, she would take tea with a Duke who everyone said had a frozen heart. But tonight, she would sit with his dead brother's words and wonder if maybe Piers Grenville had spent 4 years blaming himself for debts that weren't his fault. Just like she'd spent 2 years blaming herself for being unlovable. Maybe that was why he kept coming to her shop. Not for the books at all. Maybe broken things recognized each other. Grilland's hotel smelled like money. Beeswax candles, imported tea, the kind of perfume that cost 5 guineas an ounce. Millie had worn her best dress, deep blue merino wool, 3 years old but well kept, and still felt like a sparrow among peacocks. Piers was already seated in a corner alcove, away from the main tea room. Private, but not scandalously so. He stood when she approached, and she noticed heads turning. The Duke of Ashcroft taking tea with a shopkeeper. But tomorrow's scandal sheets would feast on this. "Miss Thorne," he pulled out her chair himself. His fingers brushed her shoulder as she sat. That same goddamn electric jolt from yesterday. "Your Grace!" Her heart was hammering. "This is inadvisable." His mouth quirked. "Certainly. Would you like to leave?" She should. Every practical bone in her body screamed it. But she'd stopped being practical the day she chose bookbinding over sitting quietly in her aunt's parlor, waiting to fade into spinsterhood. "No," she said. Something lit in his eyes. Approval, maybe. Or relief. Tea arrived. Darjeeling. Proper china. Tiny sandwiches she was too nervous to eat. They sat in silence for a moment. Not uncomfortable, exactly. More like 2 people standing at the edge of a cliff, deciding whether to jump. "I read your brother's notes," she said finally. In the folio. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have, but they were there and It's all right." His voice had gone quiet. "I hoped you would, actually." Her breath caught. "You hoped? I've brought you 11 books in 9 months, Miss Thorne. Only 3 actually needed repair." He was watching her intently now. "I kept coming back because you never looked at me the way others do. Like I might shatter if someone spoke too loudly, or like I was some prize to be won. How do I look at you?" Like you understand. He set down his teacup. His hands weren't quite steady. My brother died owing £4,000 to a moneylender named Marchmont. Vicious man. The kind who doesn't just want money, he wants blood. Lawrence was terrified. He went to Brighton that August, got drunk, went swimming in rough seas. Piers's jaw tightened. Or they called it an accident. Maybe it was. Millie's throat closed. You paid the debt. Every penny. But it was too late. He looked at her directly. I've spent 4 years wondering if I'd just given him the money earlier, not lectured him about responsibility, not made him feel like a failure. It wasn't your fault. Wasn't it? His voice cracked slightly. I was his younger brother. I was supposed to... He stopped, took a breath. I'm sorry. This isn't proper tea conversation. Proper is overrated. She reached across the table, stopped just short of touching his hand. Your brother made his own choices. The debt, the swimming, all of it. You can't carry guilt for someone else's life. Can't I? He looked at her hand, hovering near his. Can you? The question landed like a blow. Thomas Cavanaugh didn't jilt you because you were lacking, Piers said softly. I made inquiries. He owed Marchmont money, too. £3,000. He fled to France 2 days after your wedding was supposed to happen. The tea room spun. You... What? I paid his debt as well, last year. Not for him. I'd have happily let Marchmont have him. But the debt was preventing him from returning to England. And I thought... He finally took her hand. His palm was warm, calloused from riding. I thought you might need to see him again. To know it wasn't about you. Millie couldn't breathe. Why would you do that? Because I've watched you for 9 months. His thumb traced her knuckles. Watched you hold your head high while people whispered. Watched you build something with your own hands instead of fading away. It watched you refuse to let one man's cowardice define you. His voice dropped. And I thought, here is someone who understands what it means to carry weight you don't deserve. Tears burned her eyes. Piers, I'm not good at this. His hand tightened on hers. People terrify me. My brother was the charming one. I'm just the second son who never learned how to be a duke. But you... He swallowed hard. You make me want to try. Around them, the tea room had gone silent. People were definitely staring now. By tomorrow, every drawing room in London would be discussing this. Millie didn't care. I need to tell you something, she whispered. My shop. I'm losing it. I have until March to pay £40 or I'll give you the money. No, she pulled back slightly. That's not why I'm telling you. I need you to know that I'm not... I can't be someone's charity case. I can't be saved. I tried that once, pinning my future on someone else, and it nearly destroyed me. I'm not asking to save you. His eyes held hers. I'm asking if you'd consider letting me stand beside you while you save yourself. Her heart cracked open. The shop matters to you, he continued. So we'll find another way. I'll commission work, send you clients. But Millie, her name in his mouth felt like intimacy. I want to know you, properly, not patron and tradeswoman, not duke and commoner, just us. People will talk, she managed. Let them. He lifted her hand to his lips, kissed her knuckles softly. I've been frozen for 4 years. You're the first thing that's made me feel warm. Outside, church bells struck 4. Tea was over. Millie should leave, go back to her shop. Be sensible. Yet instead, she said, there's a walking path in Green Park. Tomorrow, 2 o'clock? His smile was like sunrise. I'll be there. The walking path was nearly empty. January cold had driven most of fashionable London indoors, but Millie barely felt it. Piers walked beside her, close enough that their arms brushed occasionally. Each touch sent warmth through her wool pelisse. I have a confession, she said. They'd been walking in comfortable silence for 10 minutes, watching their breath cloud in the air. I looked you up, into Brett's, at the lending library. His eyebrow rose. Did you? You own 12 estates. Your seat in Derbyshire has 200 rooms. You have mining interests in Cornwall and timber in Scotland. She glanced at him sideways. You're also apparently a very eligible bachelor, though that part seems to be causing you trouble. Dreadful trouble, he agreed solemnly. Last week, Lady Mountjoy cornered me at the opera with her daughter. The girl looked like she wanted to be anywhere else. I sympathized deeply. Millie laughed, actually laughed, the sound surprising her. When had she last done that? What did you do? Told them I was recently engaged. Lady Mountjoy went purple. Her heart stuttered. That was unkind. To lie. Was it a lie? He stopped walking, turned to face her fully. I'm rather hoping it won't be. The world tilted. Piers, we've known each other 9 months, but we've only really talked for 2 days. I know. He took both her hands. I know it's mad. I know I should court you properly, call on you with flowers, wait a respectable time. But Millie, I've wasted 4 years being careful, at being cold, keeping everyone at arm's length because it hurt less than risking something real. His grip tightened. I don't want to waste any more time. I'm a tradeswoman, she whispered. Your mother was an earl's daughter. People said my brother was a wastrel. They said you were unmarriageable. People talk regardless. He stepped closer. I'm asking what you want, not what's proper, not what makes sense. What do you want? The question cracked something open inside her. What did she want? She wanted to stop being afraid, stop proving she didn't need anyone because needing someone had destroyed her once. Stop wearing independence like armor. She wanted this man who understood frozen hearts and guilt that wouldn't let go. I want you, she said. Simple. True. He kissed her then. Soft at first. Tentative, like he was afraid she'd disappear. She pressed closer and felt him make a sound low in his throat. His hands came up to frame her face, and she tasted tea and something else, something like hope. When they broke apart, they were both breathing hard. Marry me, he said against her mouth. Not because I'm a duke or because you need saving. Marry me because I'm desperately, inconveniently in love with you. Yes. No hesitation, no second guessing. Just yes. His smile could have lit all of London. 3 months later, Millie stood in her shop, their shop now, though Piers had insisted it remain in her name, and surveyed the changes. New front windows, proper heating, a second workroom in the back. Orders lined the desk. Actual orders, from actual clients, because word had spread that the Duchess of Ashcroft did the finest bookbinding in London and took commissions personally. Duchess. The title still felt strange. They'd married quietly at St. George's in February. Small ceremony. Just family and close friends. No 200 guests. No elaborate breakfast. Millie had worn cream silk, and Piers had smiled when he saw her. Really smiled. The kind that made him look younger. Her aunt had nearly fainted when the announcement appeared in the Morning Post. Thomas Kavanagh had sent a letter of congratulation that Millie burned without reading. The Ton had gossiped for approximately 2 weeks before finding some other scandal to dissect. The shop bell rang. Piers ducked through the doorway, carrying a paper-wrapped parcel. Still wore his greatcoat like he was uncomfortable in it. Still moved through the world like he wasn't quite sure he belonged. But he was learning. They both were. I found something at an estate sale in Mayfair. He set the parcel on her counter, eyes bright. Thought you might like it. She unwrapped it carefully. A book, of course. He brought her books the way other husbands brought flowers. A first edition Austen, she breathed. Piers, this must have cost worth every penny to see your face. He came around the counter, wrapped his arms around her waist from behind, rested his chin on her shoulder. "How was your morning?" "Productive. Lady Farnsworth commissioned a full library rebinding. 200 volumes. She leaned back against him. "How was yours?" "Tedious. Estate meetings. My steward wants to modernize the tenant cottages in Derbyshire." I agreed, obviously. "Good, but the man talks for hours." He pressed a kiss to her temple. "I kept thinking about coming home to you." Home. Not the massive townhouse in Grosvenor Square, though they lived there now. Not any of his 12 estates. Just wherever she was. "I love you," she said, turning in his arms. "I know." He smiled against her lips. "You tell me every morning." "And you never tire of hearing it?" "Never." He kissed her properly, though I should probably return the sentiment. "I love you. Desperately. Inconveniently. Completely." The shop bell rang again. A customer, looking nervous. Millie reluctantly pulled away. "Duty calls, Your Grace." "Duchess." He caught her hand, kissed it. "I'll be upstairs. Come find me when you're done." "Always." She watched him go, near this man who'd been frozen for 4 years, until she'd somehow thawed him without meaning to. Or maybe he'd thawed her. Maybe they'd saved each other. Two broken things, recognizing their reflection. The customer cleared his throat. "Pardon me, Your Grace. I have a book that needs repair." "Of course." Millie smiled. "Tell me about it." Outside, January rain turned to February sleet, turned to March sunshine, turned to April blooms. The seasons changed. The world kept turning. And in a small shop in Cheapside, a duchess with ink-stained fingers did the work she loved, married to a duke who'd finally learned that frozen hearts could melt. If you were brave enough to let them.